There was a time when Samir felt like a guest in his own life. Every morning, the alarm rang, he dragged himself out of bed, scrolled social media, and compared his life to others. Friends were posting new cars, foreign trips, wedding photos, and promotion letters. Samir had a small rented room, a low-salary job he didn't like, and a head full of noise. He was not poor in the strict sense, but he felt empty. One evening, after a long day at the office, he sat alone at a roadside tea stall. In front of him was a cup of tea, growing cold, and his phone screen, glowing bright. He wasn't really reading anything. He was just escaping. In his mind, a quiet but painful sentence repeated. Is this really my life? Is this all there is for me? As he sat there lost in thought, an old man came and asked politely, "Is this seat taken?" Samir moved his bag and nodded, "No, you can sit." The old man wore simple but clean clothes, had kind eyes, and carried a small notebook. Samir didn't pay much attention at first. But after a few minutes, the old man looked at him and said, "You seem more tired in your heart than on your face." Samir was surprised. "Excuse me?" The old man smiled gently. "Your tea is untouched, your eyes are far away, and your shoulders are heavy. People who are just physically tired look different. You look disappointed." Samir forced a laugh. "I'm fine, just work stress." The old man shook his head. "No. Work stress is when you are full but overloaded. You look empty and overloaded at the same time." These words cut through Samir's defense. For the first time in a long time, he felt like someone saw him. He sighed. "Honestly, you're not wrong. I just don't know what I'm doing with my life. Everyone is going somewhere. I'm just stuck." The old man took a sip of his tea and then said, "Would you like to meet your future self?" Samir blinked. "My future self?" "Yes," the old man replied. "The person you'll become in 10 years if you continue exactly as you are now, and the person you could become if you change." Samir smirked. "And how will I meet him? Magic? Time travel?" The old man smiled. "Not magic. Just honesty. If you're willing to take a walk with me, I can show you something." Normally, Samir would have refused. But that night, something inside him was too tired to resist. He felt curious. And desperate. "All right," he said. "I don't have anything better to do anyway." They paid for the tea and started walking down a quieter street. The city noise softened behind them. After a few minutes, the old man stopped near a small park and pointed to a bench. "Sit," he said. Samir sat. The old man remained standing, looking at him carefully. "Samir," he said, and the young man was surprised again. "How do you know my name?" The old man shrugged. "You forgot you're wearing an office ID card." Samir laughed nervously. "Right." The old man then spoke slowly, like someone opening a book. "Samir, imagine this. You don't change anything. Same job. Same habits. Same scrolling. Same excuses. 10 years pass. You are now 35. What does your day look like?" Samir hesitated. "I don't know." "Try," the old man insisted. "Picture it. You wake up. Where are you? What do you do?" Samir closed his eyes. He saw himself in a slightly bigger rented apartment, maybe, but still rushing to a job he didn't like, still complaining about the boss, still dreaming of one day but never moving. His health a little worse, his energy lower, his bitterness higher. A tightness formed in his chest. "I see myself, older, more tired." Still stuck in the same place, Samir whispered. The old man nodded. "And when you look in the mirror, what do you feel?" Samir swallowed. "Regret." A lot of regret. And if you keep everything exactly the same, the old man continued, what will you say to yourself at 35 when you remember this night? Samir thought about it. I'll say. I knew I was unhappy at 25, and I still did nothing. The old man's eyes softened. That is your first future self. The one you are building right now, without even noticing. Samir opened his eyes. The park lights blurred for a moment. Is that what you wanted to show me? My worst-case scenario? The old man shook his head. No. Now I want you to meet another future self. For that, you have to be bold. You have to answer honestly, if nothing was stopping you, what kind of person would you want to become in 10 years? Not what job, not what salary. What kind of person? Samir had never been asked that before. Everyone always asked about his career, money, or marriage plans, never about the person inside. After a long silence, he said slowly. I want to be calm. Confident. Healthy. I want to be someone who helps others, not just complains. I want to be proud of myself. The old man smiled. Good. Now, imagine that version of Samir. At 35, calm, confident, helpful, proud. How does he spend his day? Samir closed his eyes again. This time, the scene felt different. He saw himself waking up earlier, not rushing. Maybe he wasn't rich, but he looked at peace. He imagined himself working in a job where he was not pretending, maybe something with teaching, speaking, or solving real problems. He saw himself visiting his parents, taking care of his health, mentoring younger people. A faint smile touched his lips. He wakes up early, Samir said softly. He exercises. He reads. He works on something meaningful. People respect him, and he respects himself. The old man asked, what did he do, between 25 and 35, to become that man? Samir thought deeply. His mind wanted to say, he got lucky, but his heart knew better. He changed his daily habits, Samir answered slowly. He stopped wasting so much time online. He learned new skills. He took small risks instead of just thinking about big ones. He chose his friends more carefully. And, he was honest with himself. The old man sat beside him now. So tell me, Samir, which future self are you walking toward today? The tired one, full of regret? Or the calm one, full of quiet pride? Samir did not answer immediately. His silence was the answer. He was walking toward the tired one. The old man opened his small notebook and tore out a page. He wrote one sentence and handed it to Samir. It read. Nothing changes in 10 years that doesn't start with a single different day. Tonight, the old man said, you have already seen 10 years into your future. That is more than most people ever do. Now the question is. What will you do with this vision? Samir looked at the sentence, then at the old man. What should I do? He asked. The old man replied, start with one day. Don't try to fix your entire life. Fix tomorrow. Make it a day that belongs to the future you want, not the future you fear. Then repeat. Samir walked home that night with the paper in his pocket and a storm in his mind. At home, he usually fell on the bed, scrolled mindlessly, and slept late. This time, he put his phone aside and sat with a notebook. At the top he wrote. If I keep living like this, who am I becoming? He made 2 columns. Current me. Future me I want. Under, current me, he listed. Sleeps late. Scrolls social media for hours. Complains about job. No exercise. Avoids learning anything new. Says, one day, a lot. Under, future me I want, he wrote. Wakes up earlier. Uses phone with discipline. Either improves job or changes it. Moves his body. Learns something regularly. Says, today, more than, one day. The gap between the two columns looked painful. But the old man's sentence echoed, nothing changes in 10 years that doesn't start with a single different day. Samir decided that his single different day would start the next morning. He set an alarm 30 minutes earlier than usual. Just 30 minutes, not 2 hours. He promised himself he would walk outside for 10 minutes and not touch his phone until after that walk. It sounded small, almost silly, but he knew his old self would find excuses even for that. The next morning, the alarm rang. His old habit screamed, just sleep. You're tired. But somehow, the image of his tired 35-year-old self came to his mind, staring back at him with regret. That image hurt. He got up. He stepped outside. The sky was still dim, the street quieter than usual. He walked slowly at first, then a little faster. 10 minutes. 15. It wasn't magical, but for the first time in months, he felt like he was doing something for himself, not for his boss, not for social media, not for his family's expectations. Just for the future Samir. That day, he noticed something else. Because he had moved his body and cleared his mind a little, his energy at work was different. He still didn't love his job, but he was less angry. He watched how people behaved, noticed processes, and thought, if I had to design a better way to do this, what would I change? A small curiosity woke up inside him. At lunch, instead of scrolling his phone, he opened a free online course he had saved months ago, Introduction to Project Management. He watched just 10 minutes. Again, nothing big. But it was another vote for his future self. Days turned into weeks. His morning walk went from 10 minutes to 20. The online course went from 10 minutes at lunch to 30. Then he added another habit, writing one paragraph each night about his day, not complaining, but reflecting, what did I learn today? What did I do today that my future self will thank me for? There were days he failed. Days he slept late. Days he wasted hours on his phone again. On those nights, the old shame came back, see, you can't change. You're the same. But then he remembered the old man's face and the line in the notebook. He realized that failure is not the opposite of change, giving up is. So instead of hating himself, he restarted the next day. After a few months, something subtle but powerful happened. People at work started to notice that Samir was more organized than before. A colleague said, "You always know what's going on in our projects. How do you keep track?" Samir shrugged, "I started making better notes and planning my day." He didn't mention the morning walks, the courses, the reflection journal, but all of that was shaping him. One afternoon, his manager called him into the cabin. "Samir, I've noticed your improvement. There's a new internal project starting. Small, but important. I think you could assist the project lead." Old Samir would have thought, "I'm not ready." New Samir still felt fear, but he also felt a quiet voice saying, "This is one of those steps your future self took." He said yes. The project was messy. Deadlines, miscommunication, scope changes, all the usual chaos. But Samir applied everything he was learning in his course. He created clear lists, set priorities, spoke calmly in stressful meetings. Some days went badly. He made mistakes. Instead of collapsing, he wrote about them at night. What went wrong? What can I do differently? By the end of the project, the outcome was not perfect, but it was solid. The manager publicly appreciated his effort. For the first time, the word potential was used next to his name. Meanwhile, in his personal life, the changes were also visible. His parents said, "You look healthier." A cousin said, "You're different, more serious, but in a good way." Samir realized he was complaining less, listening more. 1 year passed. Samir sat again at the same roadside tea stall where he had met the old man, but the old man was nowhere to be seen. Samir took out his old notebook. Inside, the line still read, "Nothing changes in 10 years that doesn't start with a single different day." Under it, he added, "And nothing continues in 10 years without many repeated days." He smiled. In 1 year, he had not become rich or famous. But he was no longer a guest in his own life. He felt in charge. Years continued to pass. At 28, he took a calculated risk and moved into a slightly better role in a different company. At 30, he started mentoring younger colleagues formally. At 32, he launched a small side project, an online group where he shared simple daily practice ideas, walking, journaling, learning. He called it Future Self Club. Messages began to come in, "Your small daily tasks are helping me. I started walking because of you. I finally updated my CV after your video." Samir often thought back to the night when he was the one who needed help, and an old stranger had given him a single powerful idea. At 35, he stood by a window in his modest but peaceful apartment. He held a mug of tea in his hand. His phone buzzed with a reminder, "Call parents, prepare tomorrow's session, check on mentee's CV." His work involved helping teams plan projects and helping individuals plan lives. The old emptiness was gone, replaced by a sense of direction. He looked at his reflection in the glass and realized something with a shock of gratitude. He had become the future self he had once imagined on that bench. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but truly. In his mind, he heard the young version of himself at 25 whisper, "Is this really my life? Is this all there is for me?" And the 35-year-old answered gently across time, "No. There is more for you. But it won't come from wishing. It will come from small, stubborn, repeated steps." Sometimes, when life got busy, Samir wondered if the old man had been real or just a symbol his tired mind had created. He never saw him again. But he didn't really need to. Because the real meeting had happened between who he was and who he could become. And if you are listening to this story right now, sitting in your own life, maybe scrolling on your own phone, thinking, "Is this all there is for me?" then remember what Samir learned. Your future self is not built in one big dramatic moment. It is built quietly, in dozens of mornings you didn't want to get up, in small walks you took, in tiny lessons you learned, in the honest questions you asked yourself. If you change nothing, you already know which future self you are walking towards. But if you change just one day, and then another, and another, you may look back in 10 years and barely recognize the old you. Maybe tonight is your bench in the park. Maybe this story is your old man with the notebook. The rest is up to you.